Buenas and bananas y tuus. Y mina 36 na legislature in Guam is back in session. We are on second reading on Bill 246-36 COR. Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the House rules, I'd like to make a motion that we go back to motions.
On the motion to go back to motions, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. We're back in motions. Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to make a motion to add from the Committee of Education Bill number 286-36 LS, which is an act to amend subsection 715113 of Chapter 7, Title 1, Guam Code Annotated, relative to exempting Guam's public schools from the requirement of 180 instructional days or its equivalents of 900 instructional hours for school years 2020 to 2021 and 2021 to 2022.
Thank you. On that motion to add Bill number 286-36 LS to the agenda, is there any objection?
Madam Speaker, may I ask when this, the committee report was posted on the website?
Would the sponsor of the Committee on Rules yield to that question?
Madam, can you please just give me a moment's recess so I can get the documentation again and get Committee on Rules to help me answer that? Thank you.
1 minute recess. We're back from recess. Vice Speaker, you had the floor. Do you yield to the question?
Sizos Masi, Madam Speaker, Manana Sizos, yes, I will yield to that question on Bill 286-36 LS as introduced by Majority Leader Senator Talina Cruz Nelson. The submitted report was submitted to the Committee on Rules on April 21st, 2022 at 11:57 a.m. It was filed with the clerks on the same day at 1:22 p.m. and it was sent, clerk sent it to the website for uploading on April 21st, 2022 at 2:30 p.m. Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. We are on the motion.
Madam Speaker, the question
Do you have
wasn't-
a point of order or a point of inquiry?
Well, the question wasn't answered. I asked when it was posted on the website. Even though it was sent to MIS, Madam Speaker, there's a difference. They could have held it for a couple days, one day. My question is, when did the public have an opportunity to go on the website to review this? That's my question.
I believe the Vice Speaker
April
yielded.
21st, Madam Speaker, at 2:20 p.m.
Okay, it was
Point of
posted.
order, Madam
She had
Speaker.
stated that very clearly. Please state your point of order, Majority Leader Nelson.
There is no requirement in open government or our standing rules for substituted bills or amendments to be uploaded on a website prior to discussion.
Madam Speaker, that's not a point of order, but if we want to follow
That
the
is a
same
point of
rule-
order,
All
Madam
right.
Speaker, because it's in
We are-
reference
Point
to
of
our
order.
standing
Your
rules.
point of order is noted.
Point
Thank
of
you.
order then, Madam Speaker, if we're going to require all the agencies on the government of Guam to require that 5-day notice, then this body should do the same.
That argument is out of order at this moment. We are proceeding with the vote on the motion to place Bill number 286-36 LS onto the session agenda. Is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Majority Leader Nelson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to add to session agenda Bill number 287-36 LS to enact to add a new subsection 4124 Bravo 2 to Chapter 4 of Title 17 Guam Code annotated relative to creating an exception from the service learning graduation requirement for all high school students during school year 2021 to 2022.
On the motion to place Bill number 287-36 LS on the session agenda, is there any objection?
Point of inquiry, Madam Speaker, when was this posted on the website?
There's a point of inquiry.
Point of inquiry.
Is there anyone who'd like to yield to that point of inquiry? Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. For the record, it was posted up on April 21st, 2022 at 2:22 p.m.
On the motion, is
Thank
there...
you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, a point of information, that does not meet the 5-day timeline on the website for the public to see. Thank you.
On the
Point of-
motion, is there...
Point of information, Madam Speaker, there is no requirement to have a bill up for 5 days before heard on session floor. We put out a session agenda 5 days public notice for potential bills. Now, if we're going to go on the whim of every great idea fairy that wants to stop movement in this legislative body, then that's not the proper way to do things.
Madam Speaker, you're allowing the individual to debate this, and I would have the opportunity too.
There
I
is no
think that
debate
once
on
again-
this motion. We are
Why
on a
did you allow
motion.
the other speaker to speak and not me, Madam Speaker?
We
You let
are on
her
a
go?
motion to place Bill 287-36 LS. Is there an objection? There's an objection, so all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries. We're still on motions. Senator Perez, you are recognized.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, and to my colleagues. I'd like to make the motion to place Bill 267-36 COR as amended by the Committee on Environment, Revenue, and Taxation, Labor, Procurement, Statistics, Research, and Planning, introduced by myself, Senator Sabina Flores Perez, and co-sponsored by Senator Tela T. Taitigui. Is an act to amend Section 13103 and Section 13104A to B, all of Chapter 13, Division 1, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated, and to amend Section 2121, Article 1, Chapter 2 of Title 28, Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations relative to establishing a fair process for resolving public utility ratepayer disputes. I'd like to make the motion to place it into the session agenda.
On the motion to place Bill number 267-36 COR as amended by the committee on the session agenda, is there an objection?
Point of inquiry, Madam Speaker, when was this posted on the website?
Would the Committee on Rules Chair yield to that question?
Madam Speaker, yes, I will. That report was uploaded on April 18, 2022 at 9:23 a.m.
On the motion, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. We're still on motion. Senator San Augustine, you have...
Madam Speaker, it just seems to be bothering me that they keep asking the question when it was posted. We all have access. Look it up yourself. That's my opinion, okay? And I'll
Point
move
of
on from there.
information,
Thank you.
Madam Speaker. We do not have that information. I sent an
Please wait
official
until
letter
you're
on Friday
recognized
to
to
Committee
speak.
on Rules.
Senator, please wait
Madam
until
Speaker,
you're
I
recognized
sent
to speak, and I will recognize you. Senator Taitigui, do you have a point of information?
Point of information, Madam Speaker. Through the whole Friday, we've been trying to get that information on when bills were posted on the website so the public can look at it. At least give them 5 days. I mean, it's required of all other
Thank
government
you for your
agencies.
point of
However,
information, Madam
point of information
Senator
is I sent
Taitigui.
I
Thank
sent
you.
a letter, Madam Speaker,
Thank
to...
you, Senator.
Wait, let me finish. I said I sent a letter. I didn't have a chance to tell you, but I sent a letter, official letter, to Vice Speaker, the Committee on Rules, for that information. When it was posted, then I wouldn't have to stand up here and ask.
Thank
But
you.
unfortunately, I have not received a reply from her office.
Thank you, Senator. On the motion, is there any motion? Senator Perez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to place Bill number 245-36 LS as amended by the Committee on Environment, Revenue, and Taxation, Labor, Procurement, Statistics, Research, and Planning, introduced by myself, Senator Sabina Flores Perez, as an act to amend Section 54B 103B of Chapter 54B, Title 10, Guam Code Annotated, relative to extending the effective date of the paper bag ban for the retail and wholesale establishments to July 1st, 2025.
On the motion to place Bill 245-36 LS as amended by the committee onto the session agenda, is there any objection?
No, point of inquiry.
Please state your point of inquiry, Senator Taitigui.
When was it posted on the website, Madam Speaker?
Would this Committee on Rules Chair yield to that question?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Yes, I will. Again, on Bill 245-36 LS as introduced by Senator Sabina Perez, that bill was uploaded on April 19th, 2022 at 3:07 p.m. And Madam Speaker, this time I just want to thank the Committee on Rules for doing a very good job in the turnaround and meeting the 5-day requirement in time. So, thank you.
There is no 5-day requirement, but thank you.
No, there is the
Committee on Rules
submission
Chair.
to
Your
report it
5-day
out
requirement,
from committee,
that's
ma'am.
correct. Yes, there's
Thank
a
you.
5-day requirement for the Committee on Rules to upload these.
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am.
To do a SMOSI. So on the motion to put Bill number 245-36 LS as amended by the committee onto the session agenda, is there any objection? Is there an objection? I can't, can you raise your hand? Is there an objection? If there's an objection, there's an objection. So all in favor, please raise your hand. Wait, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Motion carries. All right, we're still on motions. Order, please. Senators, we are still on motion. Senator Shelton, you're recognized.
You expect everybody else, Senator Nelson, to follow it.
Where's our Sergeant of Arms? And I want audio not to turn on any mics unless they are recognized, please. So please, Senator Nelson, Senator Taitagui, please take it outside if you need to. Let's proceed with the business of the legislature. Senator Shelton, Legislative Secretary, you are recognized.
Sajis Masi, Madam Speaker, I move to place Bill number 197-36 COR as amended and further amended by the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing, introduced by Joe S. San Augustine, Amanda L. Shelton, Tina Rose Munoz Barnes, Jose Pito Terlahi, Frank F. Blas Jr., James C. Moylan, Clinton E. Rogel, and Talina C. Nelson, an act to appropriate $5 million from the 2021 Earned Income Tax Credit Reimbursement to the University of Guam for the purpose of providing additional financial support toward the construction of the Student Services Center and the School of Engineering buildings. I apologize, Madam Speaker. I think the title in the amended version has changed, so let me read the correct title. I apologize. The correct title in the amended version is An Act to Appropriate $5 million from the General Fund to the University of Guam for the purpose of providing additional financial support toward the construction of the Student Services Center and the School of Engineering buildings.
On the motion to place Bill number 197-36 COR as amended and further amended by the committee onto the session agenda, is there any objection?
No, point of inquiry, Madam Speaker.
Please state of your point of inquiry, Senator Taitagui.
When was it posted on the website? The bill?
Would the sponsor or Committee on Rules Chair yield to that question?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, but before I answer that question, I would just like to note for the record that if any resident or any colleague or any employee would like to look at when things were updated, all they would have to do is go onto our log, our legislative site, and go on to bill status. Just note for the record. On Bill 197-36, it was uploaded on April 14th at 2:18 p.m.
Legislative Secretary Shelton has a motion to place Bill number 197-36 COR as amended and further amended by the committee onto the agenda. Is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion carries. We're still on motions. Senator San Augustine, you are recognized.
Madam Speaker, I just ask that Bill 197 be heard last because we will be going to committee of the whole.
On that motion, any objection? No objection, so ordered. We are still in motions. Is there any other motion? Motions? Motions are on the bill.
I guess, Madam Speaker, just to make sure I'm correct, I know that we were on Bill 246-36 when we left for recess on Friday
Yeah,
evening.
we're going back right there right now.
Right, and unless there's any other motions, I just wanted to make sure.
Well, I'm looking for other motions. Okay. Yes. Is there any other motion? Senator Blas, you have a motion? Is there a motion? Senator Taitagui, you have a motion?
If this is a motion, Madam Speaker, I ask that during the Committee of the Whole, that BSP also be included into the Committee of the Whole.
We are not on that bill yet.
Okay.
Is there any other motion? Please raise your hand. Senator Blas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the House rules, I'd like to be able to move Bill number 258-36 as amended by the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing, and substitute on the floor. It's in the third reading. I'd like to be able to move it back to the second reading to be able to add a co-sponsor. Yeah.
There was the voting, you're just going to add sponsors to Bill 258?
All right, there's a motion, notwithstanding the House rules, to reconsider the actions of Bill number 258-36LS and move it, that would effectively move it from third reading to second reading again. Is there any objection to reconsidering the actions on 258-36LS as amended by the committee? No objection? No objection. Motion carries. Any other motions? We're still in motions. Are there any other motions? Senator Blush, you have a motion? Okay. So we're proceeding now to second reading. We are on bill number 24. You have a motion, Senator Blush?
I'd like to be able, notwithstanding, to be able to move 258LS. So before we go to
Well, we'll
246.
get to that on second reading. Yes, so we're on second reading now. And we are on bill number 246-36 COR. You want to entertain that bill first?
Yeah, 1 minute. It's only going to be 1 minute. Yeah.
All right, there's a motion notwithstanding the House rules to entertain bill number 258-36LS on second reading immediately. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. So we're now on bill number 258-36LS as amended by the committee and amended on the floor. Senator Blas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my apologies. It was my error in not being able to provide this initially when it was in we were discussing Bill 258. But I would like to be able to motion to add on additional sponsors to the bill. That'll be Senators Joe S. San Augustine and Senator James Moylan.
On the motion to add sponsors, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I request to move bill number 258-36LS back to third reading.
On the motion to move bill number 258-36LS as amended by the committee and amended on the floor and further amended today, is there any objection? Hearing no objection, motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We're back on bill 246-36 COR. Vice Speaker Muñoz, you are recognized. Muñoz Barnes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speakers, and Manana Sidhu Statlu to the listening audience and my colleagues. I guess I would do a notwithstanding the House rules. I move to resolve into the Committee of the Whole for the purposes on deliberating on bill number 246-36 COR as amended by the Committee on Public Accountability, Human Resources, the Guam Build-Up, Hagåtña Revitalization, Regional Affairs, Public Libraries, Telecommunications, and Technology, introduced by the Committee on Rules on behalf of Imagahagan Guahan, which is an act to approve the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Plan and its supporting documents. Madam Chair, and that I chair the Committee of the Whole, and I invited the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority, Board of Commissioners, ex-official members, and staff, as well as the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. So on the motion, Madam Speaker.
On that motion, is there any objection?
No objection.
Hearing no objection, we will now resolve into Committee of the Whole.
Madam Chair, can we take a minute to recess so that we can set up and bring the parties in?
Yes, I believe they're here, so we would just bring them in right now.
Yes.
Yes.
The Committee of the Whole is back from recess. At this time, colleagues, as presiding chair, I'm going to share the rules of engagement this morning. The committee of materials for the Committee of the Whole are in the shared session Google Drive folder. The rules of engagements are as follows. There will be 3 rounds for discussions. We will have 2 rounds of questions for the panel. Each senator for each round has 5 minutes for questions, not including responses. Time to speak may not be yielded from more than one member to another member. A member who yields that member's time on a question yields all that member's time on that question and may not later speak, even if all the time yielded was not used. After the completion of 2 rounds of questions, panelists will be excused. The 3rd round is only for amendments and comments. After the body has completed discussion of the bill, the sponsor may close and will entertain a motion for the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole. We are in Bill number 246-36 COR as amended by the Committee on Public Accountability, Human Resources, the Guam Buildup, Hagåtña Revitalization, Regional Affairs, Public Libraries, Telecommunications, and Technology is introduced by the Committee on Rules by the request of Imagahagan Guahan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam and 21 GCA Chapter 79, an act to approve the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Plan and its supporting documents. Sergeant of Arms, at this time, can you please swear in all the panel members, even those that are on Zoom?
Good morning, panel members. Please rise and please raise your right hand. Under the penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information that you provide this legislative body today, be in verbal, written, or in electronic, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Madam Speaker, they are sworn in.
Even though.
Hafide, good morning, panel members on the Zoom. Can I ask you to please raise your right hand? Under the penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information that you provide today, verbally, written, or electronic, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Madam Chair, they are sworn in.
Thank you very much, Sergeant of Arms San Agustin. At this time, thank you. I would like to note for the record, colleagues, that Chairwoman Maria Leon Guerrero has an appointment at 10:30. Colleagues, if there's any questions you would like Chairwoman Leon Guerrero to ask, I'd ask that you share it. And if I can begin first by allowing the panel members to introduce themselves into the microphone. And we'll start with our Madam Chairperson.
Hafide, good morning, Senators. My name is Maria Eugenia Leon Guerrero, and I'm the Chairwoman for the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority. Thank you.
Hafide, my name is Lasia Casil. I'm the Executive Director of the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority.
Half a day, I'm Omaira Brunal Perry. I'm an ex-officio member representing Micronesian Area Research Center. Thank you.
Afternoon, my name is Joseph Santos. I'm a planning staff for the Department of Chamorro Affairs, formerly a planning staff for Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority.
Hafide, good morning, everybody. Senators, my name is Lola Leongro. I'm the Acting Director of the Bureau of Statistics and Plans.
Hafide, good morning, Senators. My name is Vince Ariola, the Director at the Department of Public Works.
Hafide, my name is Felix Benaventi. I'm a Commissioner with the HRRA.
Hafide, Senators. My name is Carlos Madrid. I'm a Commissioner of the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority.
And to Sorry, and to the member on Zoom,
Half a day. I'm Celeste Butchery Werner. I'm the Chief of Strategic Development for Matrix Design Group. Thank you.
thank you. Celeste Warner. Okay. And at this time, Secretary, could you please?
Vice Speaker Tina Munoz-Barnes, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'd like to thank all the members of HRRA for being here today, and those that are on Zoom, on Dunkel Nasito Smasi. I do have 4 questions. I'm going to read each question in the interest of time, and then we'll go one by one, just so that I can meet the timeline. In response to my question regarding current infrastructure and new developments conforming to the design guidelines, HRRA stated that new development must abide by the design guidelines. Will there be a process to allow for exceptions in case they are unable to comply? Number 2, Goal LU 1.2 states that the city shall discourage and, if necessary, prohibit land uses which will conflict with the community's land use objectives for Agana Village. Is this strictly for zoning purposes, or will HRRA regulate the types of businesses that can operate within Agana? Number 3, the master plan lacks language regarding technology and telecommunications, such as village-wide Wi-Fi. I'm sure the public also has new expectations for Agana that may not be reflected in the current plan. Are we able to update the plan later on if we pass it this session? And number 4, can Agana Restoration and Redevelopment Authority once again reiterate the timeline for the implementation of the full master plan? So those are 4 questions. I'll start with number 1, and I will open it up to any of the panel members, which is in response to my question regarding the current infrastructure and new development conforming to the design guidelines. HRRA stated that the new development must abide by the design guidelines. Will there be a process to allow for exceptions in case they are not able to comply?
Hi, Madam Vice Speaker. The question asking if there will be exceptions to current structures. And the Hagåtña Master Plan does address that. As we know, there are lots of businesses in Hagåtña that do not currently conform to the current zoning code. And it's not our mission to push those businesses out. Policy in the Chapter 3 land use, it addresses all these issues regarding existing new developments. Existing infrastructure will not be affected. However, new developments will be expected to conform. In policy LU 2.1 to 2.5, it states where a compatible mix of viable land uses have occurred that do not comply with the current zoning code, the city shall work with the landowners to bring the property in compliance by allowing a reasonable mix of uses while moderating negative impacts. So those existing businesses are grandfathered in.
Sorry, Vice, can we ask for page numbers on those citations?
It's on page 34.
Okay. And then the master plan lacks language regarding technology and telecommunications, such as the village-wide Wi-Fi. I'm sure the public also has new expectations for Hagåtña that may not be reflected in the current plan. Are we able to update the plan later on if we pass it in this session for the village-wide Wi-Fi?
I can take that one.
Yes, please.
Firstly, I guess to answer the question, can the plan be updated? And the answer to that is yes. It is a living document that is designed to be revisited every so often. My understanding is that any change to the master plan itself would need to come back before this body, but that's the intention, that it should always adjust and evolve as needs dictate. With regard to the IT one, I don't think that a revision of the master plan is necessary for that, because that can be addressed in the implementation as a project. And so we agree that that is an important objective that should be addressed. And we intend to pursue funding to make that happen.
Thank you very much. And then, can Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority once again reiterate the timeline for the implementation of the full master plan?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Vice Speaker.
Can Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority once again reiterate the timeline for the implementation of the full master plan?
Okay, so in the master plan, it does, in the package that was provided, it does give a number of projects and the estimated cost for that. And there is a statement in there that says it would cost about $550 million in 15 years to implement. But in my opinion, the timeline to implementation is gonna depend on a lot of factors. It's saying 15 years. It's taken us 25 years to get to this point. So I think it really is all a matter of securing the funding and getting all the stakeholders together in order to attack each of these individual projects. But I would say 15 years is optimistic for the complexity and the breadth of projects that is included in the current list.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Speaker. We'll now move to Senator Sabina Perez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to this esteemed panel. So I have some questions in referencing the law itself. So one of the things that HRRA can do is they can secure bonds, right, and without pledging debt to the government of Guam. And basically the pledge would go towards revenues produced as well as property. And so I guess my concern is, should HRRA go out for a bond, to what extent or what kind of governance is in place to protect the property so that it stays with the government? So my fear is, maybe if someone in this board can speak to that in regards to ensure that the property stays with the people of Guam.
I can speak to that. So my understanding of the law says that we are authorized to issue a bond in order to fund the activities of the HRRA at some point in the future. But the bond, I guess from the bondholder's perspective, it's really going to be based on the having a stable and steady repayment source, which at this point in time, we don't really have that, right? There's a law that states that the tax revenues for the buildings and the improvements, not the land, but the buildings and the improvements is supposed to go into HRRA's account in order to fund the activities of the HRRA. And because this organization was designed in order to spur economic development, it makes sense to me that the revenue source is tied to the mission of the organization. But at this point in time, we have some work to do even to secure that steady and reliable funding source. So really issuing a bond or even applying for a private loan is not practical for us at this point in time. It might be in the future when we have those steady and reliable income source, but not at this time. So I don't think, from what I understand, the land is not going to be a collateral for the bond. It's going to rely on that income stream, which is the tax revenue.
And do you think that this plan should also incorporate funding mechanisms so that we're clear on, yes, we all, I think, believe that the capital should be developed, right? But then going forward, as far as what is the governance structures in place, should that be a part of this plan with the approval of it?
So the scope of work that was contracted to Matrix has several components to it. One of them is the zoning code, right, which we haven't even addressed yet. Another is governance component and financial analysis about how all of this would get paid for, how it would work operationally. I do think those things would need to be addressed in due time, but I do think that I don't think that those elements should hold back the passage of these three key components, because with these three key components, it opens the doors for us to pursue funding sources that can help us move the organization forward. Plus, going through, proposing any type of change to the zoning code is a project in and of itself. It's going to require public hearing. So would those changing any type of governance that's changing laws. So right now, we're not endeavoring to change laws. We're just endeavoring to fulfill the requirements of the founding law that we come up with a plan. So this is the plan. Those other things are more on the execution side, and I think that the appropriate time to address those is as we evolve in maturity as an organization.
So is it safe to say that because there's no governance structures in place that's different from what we currently have, then the default would be what we have? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, good. If someone can also clarify, what percentage of lands in Hagåtña are private property versus public?
I can take that question, Senator. I think it's about 60-30. I think 35% of lands in Hagåtña are public, and the good part of that is like the paseo, the good the cliff line, shoreline, and the Skinner Plaza, the historic district. So it's about 65-35.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. So
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a more accurate, indicated in the map atlas on page 14, Hagåtña land ownership is 35.2% is owned by the government, and 64.8% is private land. That's 221.93 acres and 407.85 acres.
Thank you very much. So I know one of the powers of the board is, I know this perhaps was brought up during the public hearing, was condemnation, land condemnation, being that I guess the majority of the properties are not publicly owned. I guess what is the plan to, I guess, move forward with the HRA master plan if the majority of the landowners are private owners?
I think the board has been very, very sensitive to this issue, considering the history of land taking on Guam, and they have thoroughly gone through all of the public lands to identify where we can implement the projects. So all the projects in the portfolio are on government land.
Masi. The other question that I have, so it was brought up about the historic properties. To what extent does the master plan prioritize the preservation of historic properties in Agana?
Senator, so the first chapter of the Hagåtña Master Plan is all about preservation and conservation of our historic properties. And it speaks about protecting the view sheds and expanding the heritage trail. Those are some of the projects that we're looking at. So it's very, very important, so much so that this is the first chapter, the first thing that we address in the Hagåtña Master Plan.
Okay, yeah, so I'm just basically referencing a memo that was sent by Commission member Hope Cristobal. So there's some things, that recommendations that she had made, for instance, the overlays of historic properties. So upon development or restoration, I should say, are those, how is that going to be implemented in your view?
Senator, that information is in the map atlas. When the plan was being done, we used the map atlas as a reference source, and so the historic properties are listed in there. And when anyone comes in to develop, that's overlaid and on their property so that we identify that. And of course, on the regulatory side of the house, the SHPO takes precedent in terms of identifying how that development would occur.
All right, thank you so much. And then as far as place names, is that also in the current master plan as far as making sure that it gets approval by the Commission?
Yes, actually the entire master plan, the basis of that, and I think if you look in the map atlas, it also show the names of the various areas in Hagåtña and using that name. As a matter of fact, one of the parts of the master plan is to bring back the barrios and into the districts so that we name them as a sub-district of the actual area. So that's part of the plan in terms of bringing back place names or name places on the island of Guam and specifically the city of Hagåtña.
May I also add onto that the Commission is one of our ex officio members, and we definitely value our partnership with them. So, when the opportunity comes up to finalize the place names, of course, their opinion and their buy-in is very important. And so that would not be, we would not overlook their priorities, and we would work with them to make sure that honor is given to all areas of our history, including indigenous place names, which I know is something that that's very important to all of us.
Mrs. Masi for those responses. Maybe just one more question since I have a few minutes. So I guess the flood map, I guess the question is, so it took so many years to get to this point, right? And I guess when is the next opportunity do you see to reevaluate the plan, considering changes perhaps from our coastlines due to climate change, for instance? When do you foresee in the next reevaluation period?
So part of the policy is that we revisit this every 5 years because, of course, there are going to be new issues and new developments occurring. So as it is a living document, and we expect to review it every 5 years.
All right. Thank you so much for your responses, Mrs. Masi. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Perez. We'll move on to Senator San Agustin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lucille, I heard earlier you mentioned some of the businesses are not in compliance. Did you make that statement? Some of the commercial industries are not in compliance. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, sir.
How are they not in compliance when most of them, not every one of them are old? Most of them are new.
I think I see what you guys are referring to, and I think the speaker brought this up too. And I think the issue here is the zoning, not the necessarily, the business is not a legal or compliant business. It's just more so that today there are certain businesses in Hagåtña who are operating the nature of their operations is not consistent with the zoning. That's what we're referring to here.
And what are those businesses?
I'm sorry, this is, there was a question that was submitted. Would this also mean that certain businesses would not be able to open in Hagåtña? So, to my knowledge, the master plan does not say anything about what businesses can or can't be in Hagåtña. It's, the limiting factor is the zoning. That is what the intent was there, and that there are certain businesses right now that are not in compliance with their zoning.
For example, along the Santa Cruz Lane Loop area of Hagåtña that is zoned as R2 multifamily dwelling, but we know that there are industrial type uses there. There's junkyards. Along the cliffside of West O'Brien, it's also zone R2, yet there are various commercial offices located there. But as I mentioned before, these are all grandfathered in. We're not going to expect these businesses to move. However, any new developments would have to comply with the land use plan.
I'm only concerned is that when there's a statement made about not being in compliance, I know about the zoning, okay? I'm familiar with the licensing. But when you make a statement like that, and then you say grandfather, how old is grandfather you're referring to? Because most of those businesses down there that have junk cars and everything, they're not 20, 30 years old. I'm just trying to be very careful on how we want to identify. And then my next question, has that been reported to Public Works, Land Management, Guam Land Use Commission, and so forth, and what actions are being taken? Do you know? Or have you guys reported it?
We
Probably
have
not.
sent notice.
Do you understand where I'm going?
I do, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's very clear because I see Public Works here, and Public Works has no problem if it's a flood zone and it needs to be taken down. He gives out the notice. He does everything he needs to do to get rid of the building, to clear the property so that it doesn't be an issue with the government. And I'm just concerned is that when statements are made, I would be very, very, very careful on how you want to construct those statements. And the next one I wanted to ask, and very simple, is where's the Hagåtña restoration program at right now? Where is it at now? Other than me looking at this paper, are any of these lots out here marked saying this is a possible place and so forth? So that folks can actually see it. We got to admit, okay, a lot of the people of Guam, they travel in Hagåtña. And if they can actually picture, okay, this is where it could be, this is where it can be, this is where it should be. Have any efforts been made to do that, or nothing yet?
Yes, sir. We are moving forward with identifying projects that we can develop. One of them is the land uses building, which is a 5-story building that we are trying to develop that would house all the land agencies. We would bring in land use resource building, 5-story, 25,000 square foot building that we were trying to develop over near West O'Brien Drive on government property. We have created a subcommittee. Now that the board has approved the plan, they were very focused on just doing the plan. Now we've created a subcommittee to look at the portfolio of 30-plus projects and identify the priorities, short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Because we know that recentralizing the government is going to take 5+ years. But we also have some short-term projects that we can do immediately. And one of those policies or things that we're trying to address is creating more activities in Hagatna. And so in a couple of weeks, we actually have a festival that we're launching. There are a bunch of different projects, and we expect to have a report out to the legislature and governor by June on the 30 projects and where identifying the priorities for those. But those are just a couple of the projects that we're working on now.
Funding, where's the funding coming from? For everything. From the building of the 5-story building the building is basically going to be next to your lollies, correct? Somebody can answer that? Vince, is that where the building's going to be at?
It's between Hulali and Tommy's Pizza. There's a lot there.
So, and that's part of the restoration of Hagatna, no? Build a land management down there? Amazing. Just curious. I'm just trying to be very careful. We're trying to restore Hagatna.
Sorry, can I answer some of your questions? Okay, so as far as your question is where does the money come from? And it's not, it's every project, we're gonna have to approach the funding separately because there's different funding sources that could be opportunities to cover the cost of that. So I know that there's opportunities to get some for the big ticket projects like the land resources building or the restoration of the Palacio. The original idea was to try to get some of that money funded through SEDS, right? These are big ticket projects. One of the baseline requirements for us to even go for some of this funding is that we need to have an approved master plan in the first place. That would open the doors for us to tap into other sources of federal funding that right now we're not eligible to because we don't even have a state recognized plan. So we are trying with the resources that we have to get some traction and show some effort for all of the time that we've put into this. Lacia mentioned that we're doing a Serena Festival, which is an initiative to try to bring back and revive some of the culture, which is a priority of the plan. Going back to your comment on the land resources building, that would be a very, I think if that was done well, that would be a huge asset to Hagatna because it could show how a big development like that could have commercial mixed use to it and bring other businesses and just create more vibrancy and attract more businesses to come and set up here in Hagatna to support those workers and everything that's needed from food services to retail and all kinds of things. That's the whole idea, is that we want to attract people to live, work, and play in Hagatna. So a project like that, if done correctly, could be a huge win. But it takes a lot of money, and that's why we need to first pass the plan, and then we'll have the basis to go and pursue some of those funding pots.
All right. The only reason why I asked about the Land Use Resource Center, whatever you want to call it, restoration of Hagatna. Did it ever exist? The answer is no. Not where you're looking at building. I think Vince and quite a few are up there. Remember, it used to be right over here. All kinds of mixture of Gov Guam was right here at the plaza. And I'm just concerned is that as you're building, and I know, and we all know that work in Hagatna, it's 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. That's the only time this area is busy. After that, it's a ghost town. Only the businesses that are open today on Marine Drive are the only one that's vibrant. And I'm just concerned.
Yeah.
Put up 5-star. Yeah. You don't have to, don't challenge it because we're going to hear the bill, okay? Work with me. Thank you. I have no other questions.
Point of information, Madam Chair. I just think it's critical to this discussion while we're here. Just a point of information that the actual land service building, that land design was actually completed. Joe Santos can talk to this in 2010. That plan is already done. The envision of the funding source for that was the rental that all of the agencies, land agencies, are currently expending with their various offices around the island. So that plan is actually 100% complete, was done by Taniguchi and Ruth, and the land was also set aside for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Senator.
And Madam Chair, with that information, then let's get her done, okay? Let's get her done. If the plan is done, move on it. Every day you delay is an excuse to come, it's a reason to come up with another excuse. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator San Augustine. Senator Blas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Along those lines, I was the author of that bill. Okay. Yeah, I have to agree with Senator Dueñas. Before I move on to my questions, Ms. Casillo, you mentioned that there was going to be a festival in the next couple of weeks. I'm trying to find a connection between the festival and what we're doing here today. So what is this festival?
Hi, sir. Yes, sir. So part of the mission is to create economic opportunities in Hagåtña, to create a live-work-play city, to promote and protect and preserve our culture and history. We identified Serena as a cultural artifact. We have the Serena Bridge. It's part of the Heritage Walk. We're trying to promote the Heritage Walk in Hagåtña. And prior to the war, Hagåtña was the center for community, for gatherings. There were Carabao races. And what we're trying to do is to bring back that vibrancy, that, and mix it in with cultural aspects and promoting our Spanish Bridge. We've partnered with GIDA, we've partnered with UOG, we've partnered with Guam Preservation Trust during the festival to have students at each of the heritage sites, so when people are walking around, they can tell them the historical significance of that site. And, this is low-hanging fruit for us. To build a building, it's going to take 5 years. We've got to prove our existence. So these are some of the small things that we're trying to do that tap into our, the protect and promote and preserve our history mission.
Okay, so we appreciate that. I think over the last 2 minutes you helped to sell that project. Okay, so I truly appreciate that response there. I guess one of my frustrations, and unfortunately, okay, you're it, is I know that this Hagåtña restoration project has been going on for almost 2 decades now. I guess the frustration, not just from me, maybe from other people, maybe even from you, is that while you can tout and you can say that, there has been progress, but there hasn't, it's optics, okay? We can have all the plans, and as a matter of fact, I think this is going to be the third iteration of a plan that I'm going to be seeing for the last 2 decades. I guess my frustration is when do we move on some of these projects? Okay, I know that you said that you got to build the case for to get monies to be able to do certain things. I'm also the author of the legislation that basically created the study for the Hagåtña River project. I'm kind of frustrated that it hasn't moved anywhere. And I remember working very closely with, at that time, USDA, who had already money set aside for Guam to be able to conduct that study, and then that study can be turned around to be used as the application for that. So I guess my question would be for that. With regards to and I know that the Hagåtña River Walk is an integral part. I don't know if it continues to be an integral part of the Hagåtña Restoration Project, but it certainly would help to deal with, I guess, the flood mitigation measures that is necessary to be able to move forward on stuff. So where are we with the Hagåtña River Walk or dealing with the Hagåtña River?
Hi, sir. I can address that
Sure.
question. So in 2020, we did engage with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to begin the study for the Hagåtña River Flood Risk Management firm study. We had funding also set aside from the hot bond And a year into it, a year and a half into the study, we were informed that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers had an executive order 11988 stating that their goal is not to reduce the size of the floodplain nor mitigate the floodplain itself, but to reduce the risk to the lives and structures and economic damage within the existing floodplain. So they had presented us with 4 options for mitigating the floodplain. And the option that we preferred included construction and actually trying to mitigate the floodplain. But what they had proposed was, didn't include construction, and so the study was terminated. And so we've actually just gone out, applied for a grant to secure funding to continue the study. But that said, moving forward with the Higatnia Master Plan and the other implementation plan is not contingent on the study.
Well, thank you for that, Ms. Casil, but I beg to differ. First off, I recognize, and as far as, Army Corps did put up that, or did have some concerns at the time the bill was introduced. And for good reason. They're the ones who rerouted the Higatnia River. Okay? There's a long history to that. I think if you go back and you look at the history and why this was done, there was actually a discussion with FEMA, Region 9, okay? And, some of the concerns that we had, because at one point in time, I think Mr. Santos can, if you remember this conversation, because you were involved in this thing about 3/4 of Higatnia being in the floodplain, okay? Which stymied, any growth that we had. And so, the concern was, okay, how do we do this? And one of the ways that FEMA had stated was we needed to mitigate the Higatnia River. So I can understand, because Army Corps is not going to take blame. They don't want to take the blame for it. Somebody's going to have to do it. That said, though, I suggest, please, go back and revisit that. And have a discussion, not just with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but also have a discussion with FEMA and USDA. First, I'll find out if that money is still available for the, I was very pleased. There's a funding source that you have there that they have that you can use to do the study necessary and use that application, use that study for your application. Okay, if there's any departure point that you may want to get to, because one of the things I remember was that it was the flooding concerns that we had that, stymied or halted on any of the projects, any of the processes that we want. To include at that time the land management building. Okay, so I'm going to ask for that you look into that too, as well. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Lazar.
Thank you very much, Senator Blas. Senator Teitigui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was so hoping that we would have that round table that we discussed during the public hearing, because I think, this amount of documents to review is quite large. I mean, we're looking at about 180 pages here. And I think, it might make it easier to discuss on this plan. It said early on in the public hearing there were 8 plans, but right now we're only discussing the design guide, the regulations, and, the map atlas, the master land use plan, and the design guides and regulations. Is there anything else in this master plan other than that? Lacia?
Senator, yes. So there are 8 components to the overall project with the master plan, but it was our understanding by the law we were only required to develop a plan. But in working with Matrix and Joseph Santos, the planner, they went above and beyond what was required by law. Because once you have a plan, you have to know, how do you finance the plan? How do you execute the plan? How do you govern the plan? So they tackled those issues as well. But the plan itself stands on its own, and that's why we've only submitted to the legislature what was required by law.
Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is that it?
I hope that answers some of your
Okay,
questions.
so basically, we're only addressing these three areas, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'd like to talk to the regulatory agencies, BSP, as well as public, well, I was hoping that land management would be here as well to discuss the zoning. Currently, right now, if anybody goes to Agatya to want to rezone or be able to build a building, are they able to do that right now? So I don't know if I could, management's not here, but let's go to Public Works. And Vince, also, that question, simple yes or no. And the other thing is, can you give me your opinion on this bill? Would it require still for anybody erecting any buildings or making any zone change, still have to go to, well, that's land management, but have to go through the regulations or requirements from DPW?
I'll go ahead and address the zoning.
Okay,
So-
can you talk into the mic? Sorry.
Yes. Okay, Lola with BSP. With regard to the zoning, you would need to go to the Application Review Committee through Department of Land Management. And I believe also there was like a hybrid with municipal planning councils as well, where you can also bring that attention to that group. So there's a recent law that was passed that allows also you to present zoning recommendations to the municipal planning councils for each village.
If this bill were to pass, Lola?
I believe so. But I would actually want to defer to Department of Land Management.
Yeah, okay.
But I do know there's also, the Application Review Committee for any zoning change.
Vince?
From our side, for any type of building permit or any type of construction, it all starts with land management, with the zoning approvals and what's allowed in certain zones without, and in particular with Agatna, everything again still starts with DLM.
Okay, even if this bill were to pass, anybody who was interested in opening a business or even building a home, they would have to go through the regulatory agencies to do this. Nothing stops them. But according to this bill, it looks like, based on some comments that were made during the public hearing, that the Hagatna Restoration has full authority on what to pass on zones and what is allowable and licensed. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I'd like to address that, Madam.
Sure, go ahead.
Senator. No, the passage of this bill does not change the zoning code.
No, that's not the change the zoning code. What it does is it allows Hagatna Restoration to decide whether they want a zone to be changed or if somebody wants to build a business and
That is
Hagatna.
not correct.
They would still have to go through the regulatory agencies, in other words,
Correct.
Lecia?
They would have to go through land management and DPW. They don't come to us.
And follow the same plans.
Correct. I believe we addressed that question earlier,
Okay.
that the current process stays the same.
Okay. And that's when we were talking about condemnation and stuff like that for properties and stuff. Is that what you're talking about, Lecia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think Senator Sabina had asked that question.
Right, okay. So in Chapter 79, the Guam Title 21, based on how Hagatna Master Plan is developed, it also requires that you address affordable homes, affordable housing and job opportunities. What has this particular plan, where has it been incorporated? And this is on Section 79202 of the law.
Yes, addressing economic opportunities and
Affordable house.
affordable housing,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, you can find that in section 7902.
So-
79202.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. The Hagatna Restoration expects to address these issues through the implementation plan by creating opportunities for businesses to come in, by building a land resources building. That will attract more businesses. We'll have to create, if we have 5,000 people after recentralizing the government, they're going to need those resources and services, the restaurants, the coffee shops, the dry cleaners. That's how we expect to address that particular issue. With the affordable housing, that's something that we're discussing right now. We have a subcommittee created to look at perhaps changing the zoning code, to expand the zoning code, actually. Currently, the areas that we're looking at are residential, and early on in the development of the master plan, when we engaged with the public, when we had the charrettes, there was a lot of feedback about how stifled the residential landowners felt because they couldn't have mixed-use retail. And that's what we want to do, is expand the zoning code to include that, so people can build multi-story condos that can house retail on the bottom. I think a prime example of that is if you look at Linda's coffee shop, where you have the residences upstairs and all the businesses downstairs. That's a prime example of what we're trying to expand in Hagatna. And then to address the affordable housing, what we can do, and this is proposed in many cities around the world, is that if a developer wants to come in and build a multi-story building, we require of them to perhaps have a certain percentage of that building required be given to members of our community at a certain income level. Maybe, let's say 20% of that building or 25%, just as an example.
Thank you, Lacia. I do have a question to BSP. It was mentioned during the public hearing that they had looked over just remarks and comments regarding the master plan, and BSP did submit some concerns. What were some of those concerns BSP had?
So the concerns BSP had to do with jobs as well as affordable housing. So, for me, the public hearing was held, this is the master plan, Hagatna master plan is a living document. So I think it's a matter of all of the regulatory organizations as well as the Bureau of Planning to kind of work with HRRA so that we can also, address, because every 5 years they need to update, but maybe within that 5 years, we could start having conversations so that we can address those things. And so, earlier was mentioned, so this is a living document. So to kind of pursue funding opportunities or type of funding, you do need to have a master plan in place. So, and that's kind of, it's vital. So I do know that, and plus, when you get any type of federal funding and you're going to construct, you also need to work with the regulatory agencies to kind of get all of your permits and your projects approved, because you still need to go through, if it's a federally funded project for a facility, you still need to go to the federal consistency review. So there's still that regulatory process that's still in place if we're using federal funding for proposed construction projects that are identified in the master plan.
That was your only concern that you submitted?
No, so really, okay, so it was when on affordable housing, it was the projects and the jobs. So that's basically my understanding. I would actually also need to get further clarification as well from the office. But what I am aware of, it was the projects, affordable homes, and jobs.
Well, maybe Lola, during this round, or you can text somebody over there to send you those concerns that BSP had as well. And you've been in the government for so many years. You know, with regards to federal funding, would you think that the Army Corps of Engineers, if they're not on providing the information and study that's needed on this project, federal funds would be very difficult to achieve?
Can you repeat?
You know,
Joe
so
can
Army
answer
Corps of
that.
Engineers are no longer doing the flood zone, the study on the flood.
The risk.
Yeah, so in other words, going after federal funds, you know, to fund this, because from what I hear, it's going to cost $550 million to do this whole project. You know, that's the latest I've read.
Okay, but I think what I heard earlier was that, that Lacia mentioned that there was a recommendation to go with, I guess, the U.S. Army Corps. They don't focus on funding projects that has to do with, well, the projects that they focus on is to reduce the risk of life, structure, and economic damage. And what I believe they said they're going to explore is to pay for floodproofing of commercial structures within the 10% of the AEP floodplain. But for me, you could still pursue federal dollars. However, there's still the regulatory requirements, like the NEPA, Environmental Protection Act requirements, as well as SHPO. So all of that will still need to come in place. So maybe then in your facility, your structure, you're going to have to build, you know, above ground, like on stilts, to mitigate the water. I mean, there's still ways around it, even if the U.S. Army Corps, that flood mitigation risk study was not conducted.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, Senator, I just wanted to bring up the Water Resources Development Act, which is WADRA, sets up a process.
Talking to the mic, please.
The Water Resources Development Act, it's a federal law, and that's where Army Corps comes into play. There's an existing process. Part of that, the Army Corps does not have to be in the beginning process in terms of setting up a study. The study can be done by the jurisdiction itself, but the study has to go through the Army Corps to get its preliminary approval that the thing meets the requirements of the Water Resources Development Act. And so when we were working with the Army Corps, one of the problems that the Army Corps had was because we did have a $25 million congressional act appropriation to do the river, but we had to comply with the plan that was done back in 1980, and that plan would cause a lot of problems with private landowners and the protection of the city. They actually put up a wall. Well, the new WADRA, the Water Resources Development Act, changed that, and it didn't meet the requirements. So the Army Corps had to come back and say, okay, we have to redo another study that makes sure that we meet the requirement. Part of that requirement is that you need to upgrade all the bridges. So the government of Guam took its own money and its own resources and worked with the Federal Highways Administration, or what is it, Federal Highways Administration, to help build the bridges. So we rebuilt those bridges, but then again, we're having problems with the Army Corps of Engineers. And when we went in to do the actual river, they're telling us that it's gonna cost us this amount of money in order for us to meet this requirement. We went to the legislature. The legislature gave us $300,000 because that's what was the original agreement that we're gonna match in terms of the working with the Army Corps. And when the Army Corps came back to the Hagåtña restoration, they said they cannot, because of this particular executive order that Ms. Lacia Casil had brought up, that they cannot turn around and help us in the planning side of the house and the channeling of the river, because their focus can only be on floodproofing the structures, doing some type of hazard mitigation. Well, that's a bunch of bull crap. I'm sorry. That's that doesn't wash. And so one of the things we wanted to do was hire Matrix as part of our existing contract to do the actual study itself, which will be shorter than what it originally was. That will give us the courses of action that we need in order to move forward in terms of what we want to do in terms of the development, and then move forward from there. But in order for us to begin and get funding, because again, Congress comes in and will say they'll give us funding, but we need to have that study there to prove that this is the cost, this is the funding that we are going to get. Now, I just want to tell you that when Hagåtña was platted, they shut down the original river, and the federal government diverted that river from where the Bank of Guam is at out to where you see it going. That river should have gone there, and the federal government never came back to fix it so that we don't have to address this issue right now. But that's where we're at in terms of the flood issues.
Senator? Sorry, can I add on to that?
Real quick. Joe, oh good, land management's here. So Joe, then why would you want to move forward on a plan without having first addressing the flood issue? I know there's a grant out there for $600,000 to do a private study with regards to the flood mitigation issue. But why would you want to move forward on anything without that plan in place first to see where these areas are going to, and who's going to do the mitigation with regards to that?
Yeah, Senator, to answer your question, the firm map is on the regulatory side of the house. It doesn't matter if you're going to go in for development, you still have to meet the flood insurance rate maps requirement for making sure you meet the height, during the building up to a certain height. So that's in the regulatory side. These documents that are going before you are planning. They're not regulatory. They set up the framework so you can say this is our vision of how we want to move forward with it.
Stop right there. You said regulatory. Yes, if you look at the plans in here, it has regulatory requirements, rules and regs in here.
No. A plan is a vision, a layout of how you propose, how you want things to look on your vision.
Okay.
When it gets executed, that's when the regulatory aspect comes into play. And that's where the regulatory agencies come into play with it.
Okay, I'll pull it. Lacia, go ahead and finish. You were going to say something?
Yes, so I just wanted to mention what the solution was that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers gave to us for mitigating the plan. Their proposal was that we go to all the businesses in Hagåtña, we ask them to vacate their businesses so that they could paint the walls waterproof. So this would interfere with all the businesses. It would be a choice. It wasn't required, but this was the solution that they came to us of the four proposals, 4 options. And this is what they are required by their executive order to go with. And interrupting businesses, asking people to take everything out of their businesses for 2 or 3 days just to paint their walls so that there's no damage, the governor did not agree with. So that's why she terminated it. And that's why we're seeking, there are other options out there. So that's why we're seeking funding to complete the study with another firm.
I don't have very much time, but there is land management, really quick, that you hear, Joe. After you had an opportunity to read the bill and the attachment.
Senator Chidickley, we need to swear him in first, so give us a moment.
Okay.
Can we get the Sergeant at Arms?
Madam Chair, the Director of Land Management was sworn in by the Sergeant of Arms.
Okay.
On the corner. Thank you.
All right, you may proceed. Go ahead, Senator Chidickley.
Have you had a chance to read the bill and the attachments? And does this have any bearing to what the responsibility of land management is currently doing under rules, their regulations and guidelines when it comes to zoning or any kind of building permit at all?
Yes, we have. We read it actually about a year and a half ago, and then we submitted our comments on it. And yeah, we read it, the 291-page bill, yes, which is this one.
Right.
Now, in terms of zoning, basically, HRRA with its plan is set up a new zoning district, a new zoning authority down in Aganya.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The general rules of, the permits and applications.
Can you talk into the mic? Sorry.
Yeah, the general rules don't change of zoning. It's just that Hagatna now has a plan of their district.
So you
but
would
in
have to
terms of
follow.
zoning, applying and things like that, rezoning, those don't change.
And they would follow, land management would have to follow their rules and regs that Hagatna Restoration has put into place.
Say it again, Senator, I'm sorry.
In other words, you would have to follow their format on what is adopted today. Land management would have to adopt their rules. So if someone was coming to land management to get any kind of business license or any variance or change.
The rules don't change. I mean, they don't change. It's still in the law for general zoning.
Okay, so you still have that authority to do all those zone changes and variances and everything like that, right?
Yes, according to their plan.
According to their plan, you have that authority. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Joe. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Titlegy. Senator Nelson, Majority Leader Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Chair, can we just recess till 2 p.m.? I
We
think
will-
we need a little bit more time to...
We will recess until 2 p.m. today, give everyone a little more time to review all of the documents. We are in recess.